Hello, it's lunchtime. Happy Valentine's, everyone. Goodness, you have been on a few minutes in ahead of time. Hey, we've got Centric from Florida. She's in today. We've got Erica, who's in as well. Happy Valentine's Day. Deb is in. And we've even got Denise in today. Denise, I didn't know if you were going to be able to finish up with breakfast this morning. Did you get those shrimp and grits going? Oh, got Louise on. How about that? And it's going to be a wonderful day. And I am certainly looking forward to all of you being right here today. We are taking a breather today, and we don't have a speaker. I hope that's okay for you today, but we have speakers lined up for the next couple of weeks who are going to, well, we'll say guests, not necessarily speakers, but guests who are going to be coming in. Happy Valentine's, Belle and Emma. Hello. And we're looking forward to having some great things that we can certainly enjoy and have benefit for. I don't know about you all, but when I look out the door to walk out the door, it's still chilly, and I don't want to say chilly, it's cold. And so we are I'm trying to stay in the warm, stay nice and toasty, and yet and still trying to do a few things today. But Denise had said yesterday, I'm going to share this with you all, and you all may have known this. You may have caught it on her show that she had a live the other day that she did, and she was showing her groceries. She had been grocery shopping, and she was talking about she was going to fix her shrimp and grits for this morning for her honey, and certainly for Valentine's Day, that is so much fun. And so you're absolutely right. I'm gonna have to make it for the big guy. And certainly happy Valentine's Day to all of our special husbands and partners and friends. Uh, we want to certainly, and even if you're with your mom or with your sisters or whomever it is, your dad, whomever that you're with, you want to make sure that you have shown them the love. Hello, Patricia. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And she's talking with everyone. I'm just so glad that you guys are here today. I wasn't sure. I thought you might have been out doing Valentine things today. And might not have been able to get in today. But I won't say I struggled because I had 50 different things that I thought we should talk about today, and trying not to overwhelm you. I certainly don't want to overwhelm you, but I do want to be able to share with you. When you're sitting at lunchtime, typically, if you're in person in a business and it's lunchtime, the conversation can be all over the place. By the time everybody gets that little bit of conversation in, I know at our lunch table, we used to have 50 different conversations going at the same time and 50 different subjects going on at the same time. And so but that was the fun of lunchtime, that chitter chatter, that time together. Oh, Oh, look here. I'm going to share this, Louise, if that's okay. This year is her. Oh, it's is Valentine his birthday, and he's coming over this afternoon. Going to be there for the afternoon and for dinner. Louise, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's so much fun. I had the grands this weekend, and I think I told Denise in one of the comments that I was just wore out. I was so tired. But and I told you all, I think too, it's Saturday morning. When I finished up Saturday morning, all I could think of was to find a chair, get something to drink, and I went to sleep. I never do that on a Saturday. I went to sleep. It wore me out. Now, she said, "Oh, Denise, I was kind of hoping that you were going to do that on a live so we could see that." She said she got her grits done. They were delicious. And so definitely I'm gonna be making those shrimp and grits for the big guy. Um, but you know what? It's always so much fun to have those that you love close by. And if they're not close by, when they drop by to visit, I know I don't get to see my grandkids, and they're 5 minutes away, but they've got so many things going on that it's almost impossible. It's kind of like they have to work the big guy and I in. And so I was teasing them. I said, "Oh, I'm so honored that you could spend some time with Mimi and Papa." And they just laughed. They just laughed. I said, "Well, the door is always open." And oh, Patricia, that's wonderful. She said she made the chili that we did on Saturday. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was a hit. The big guy loved it too. And that chili was good. And I tell you what, and because it was all vegetable, and even with the vegetable crumbles, it was light. And that was nice because sometimes when you have chili, it sits very heavy on your body. And you just have to try to give it a moment to kind of do what it needs to do. Oh, good. I'm looking here. Denise says that she's showing how to make the shrimp and grits. Oh, good, today. And so when we finish up today, we're going to have to go on over to Denise and find out how to make those shrimp and grits, because I know they are good. I know they are good. And Patricia, I'm glad that you enjoyed the chili, because it was a hit around here as well. So we know that we finish up here, we got to go to Denise's house and check out those shrimp and grits. All right, now today, but let me tell you what I had planned for today. Um, Typically around this time, I'm not a big New Year's Eve resolution kind of person, but I also I spend January doing the physicals and all those kind of things. And typically, whatever needs tweaking or whatever needs to change or something I need to improve, I try to start doing that. And so I've taken you somewhat on the journey of the things that I need to do. Hey, Ronnie, how are you? Happy Valentine's Day. And so I've taken you along because I found that I was having a few additional issues with the blood pressure. And I have high blood pressure. Mine is hereditary. And I have to deal with that. So sometimes I have things going on, in the body, and I don't even realize why or where it came from. So I have been searching, and have been searching for a while, trying to find a good meal balance. And I say that as a meal balance, in that I want the meals to be healthy, but I also want them to be delicious, because the big guy, while he lets me handle the healthy end of it, he wants that meal to be good, and he wants it to taste good. And guys kind of get that flavor profile in their head as to what it should taste like. And once they do that, they're looking for a particular flavor when they start to eat it. And what I have found in the past is that when I went on, and in fact, for 2 or 3 years, I went totally vegetarian, which just about killed him. Because when you're doing a vegetarian lifestyle, then, and you've got to cook the meat and all of that kind of stuff, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard trying to balance. And so this time, I'm thinking I needed a plan. I needed a plan that was going to be able to serve both of us, and that I could keep the flavor profile where he needed it, and yet and still it would be very healthy. So, So that's what I've been working through and doing a lot of research, a lot of reading, and a lot of tweaking of the recipes that I have. And so as I've done that, where I first started was trying to look for those locations in the world. We have some of the smartest people on the planet right here in our United States. And yet, and still, we have some of the highest levels of cancer and obesity and diabetes, all those things right here in our country. So, but then when you go and you travel to other places and you start to look at their health profiles and their analytics, some of those countries, heart disease is almost null and void. There are places where, and it has to be the way they eat because, they're going to work and doing all the things that we normally do. So we're going to start to look at what are they, it's kind of like when you're at your house and you're looking at your neighbor and they're making all these changes like, oh, did they win the lottery or what? And so for me, winning the lottery is going to be having the healthy meal, but a healthy meal that tastes good. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what I have found is that there are some locations in more European countries. And I have to say, we were blessed enough to travel to a couple of these places before COVID. We were going to Europe every year. And for about 3 years in a row, we went to Europe. We'd go to different parts of Europe. And as we did that, they eat very different. Some of the things, to be honest with you, some of the things that they would eat, I wouldn't let touch my mouth because I thought, oh, that's bad. You can't eat that. But what we found was that as it's the way it's prepared, and it's also the way, and I'm more referring to the meat. It's usually the meat. They are preparing their meat differently. They're raising their animals differently. And so because of that, the quality of the meats that are being served are at what we would consider a much higher level. Now, do you know that when you see grass-fed, free range here well, at least in Virginia, I can speak for Virginia, that all of those, if it has those labels, the price doubles. And there are other places that you go when you see those labels, they're the same as the other grocers, the other types of meats or the other producers. They're all on the same level. And, in my personal thought, I think it should be. But unfortunately, that's not the case. There's not a lot of processed food. People are cooking from scratch and they are eating vegetables. And, we have our triangle as far as our food triangle. Well, over the past few years, at least the past, I'm going to say 8 to 10 years, the food pyramid has changed. And where protein was really heavy once upon a time, protein has had to take a back seat. And they found that what we need was more vegetables, more grains, all those good things, more oils. And when we say oils, we're going to talk about that. And so as we look at our diet and what we're serving, desserts, yes, they can prepare the desserts, but the bottom line is that when they're at home, they provide the desserts for those of us who are traveling and visiting and, coming to the restaurants if we want a dessert. But when they're at home, you kind of have to pull them off to the side. Now, what do you really eat at home? And I had the opportunity to do that. Was we stayed in a villa, and the fellow who did all of our servicing and cooking, he was delightful, but he was a wealth of information. And since he was from the area, I could ask a lot of questions, from him. And plus, it helps that he spoke 5 different languages, so we could really converse with each other. And I was amazed. I was amazed by the fact that he could do that. But he had been doing that since he was a child. And but the good thing is that uh, yes, wine is at one of their beverages of choice, but they don't drink wine to the point of where they're drinking just to get their happy on. They drink a glass of wine as a part of their meal. They and that's pretty much it. And so I'm looking at Patricia. She's sharing with us that hold on, let's see, there it goes. When she lived in Holland, she noticed right away that people eat less processed food. You're absolutely right. Plus, everyone rides bicycles. I'm trying to think of the lady, Diane. Denise may know her name, but she is a Fly Lady representative and does a lot of Fly Lady shows. Diane of Denmark, she's in Denmark, but she's a Fly Lady person. And when she does her shows, like she has an early morning, they go out and they swim in that cold water every morning, and they ride their bike. Yes, yes, Emma, Diane in Denmark. She is so funny. She is so funny. But let me tell you, I like her. I like her. And she is amazing. And when those ladies go out there, they ride their bikes to the ocean, and they jump out there in that ice cold water, and they're not playing. They are serious, and they're burning those calories and the whole to do. And she said, her she was laughing because she was saying that her husband likes certain things, but she's real particular about the quality of what she gets. So she doesn't serve a lot of processed food at all. And Patricia said her mother-in-law, who is Dutch, served much less meat and a lot of veggies. And I started looking into Dutch cooking. And when you first look at Dutch cooking, it looks a little heavy. But then when you really look at what they're putting in, it's more vegetable, less meat. And that's another one of those things that you're right. Oh, okay. I see, Denise. She said she's called Fly Lady Diane, is what she's called. Okay. And but as we get out and we're able to see what others are doing, so that picks up what we've been talking about. More exercise. And she was saying Diane was saying for her, they bicycle everywhere. And she said they hardly ever move a car. They have a car, but they hardly ever drive the car. They pretty much take their bikes and off they go, even as a family. And so that's something that we don't do, and not as much because things are so spread out. And so, but looking at what we eat and looking at the quality of what we eat. And so I even started thinking back to, back in the past, our forefathers ate more natural foods. They were eating vegetables. Yes, they had meat if they could find it. And I mean, this even goes back to the caveman. Let's face it, they didn't have meat every night. They had to catch whatever that was that they were going to serve. And there may have been some nights they didn't have anything, to be honest with you. So when we talk about intermittent fasting, that's been around forever. We just didn't call it that. So, it's been a lot. It's a lot of fun. But one thing that this gentleman that I was talking to was saying was that I told him, I said, oh, I got to go to an olive farm. It was breathtaking. It was so much so that it brought tears to my eyes. I think it brought tears to my eyes, number one, because, I see it in pictures. I had talked about it with the kids, but to actually stand there in the middle of that olive field it was almost like getting back to nature. I don't know what it was. It was just something that gave me the chills at that point. And so we had the pleasure of tasting fresh olive oil and using that. And it's amazing. You look at the people, they are tiny. They're not overweight, they're healthy. Anybody who can ride 20 miles on a bicycle and not even hardly break a sweat, those people are in good shape. They have learned. Hey, Kim, happy Valentine's Day. Louise was saying when she was young that they didn't have nearly as much processed food as what we do now. You are absolutely right. I can't remember having potato chips, really. All that kind of stuff, she said it was mostly for emergency or unexpected guests. Yes, you're absolutely right. Because my mom cooked from scratch. Now, if she knew you were coming, then she would cook whatever it was. And like Cokes and all that. It was a treat to have a little glass of Coke, not have 12 cans sitting, in your refrigerator so that you can just go and pop and open. And so I guess we have kind of here taken it almost to the extreme because it is so plentiful and so easy for us to eat and so easy to acquire. So I thought, what is it I can do around my table that will help to bring a more healthy environment and things that I could change that wouldn't just totally uh, uh, blow the big guy away when he sat down to dinner. So let me tell you what I did. I started about 3 weeks ago. I got into what I call a Mediterranean class and started and learning how to cook more Mediterranean. And because in the Mediterranean, their lifespans are long and they are healthy. You got 80, 90-year-olds still out there riding those bikes and doing what they need to do. They have less Alzheimer's, less dementia. Their hearts are healthy. And so rather than saying, well, we're from the United States and I know we do it right, we need to start embracing some of those mindsets. So that was my thought. And I'm not saying everybody needs to do it, but I'm saying that's my thought, that I need to do that. So I thought, well, what can I do rather than just cutting everything off? What can I do to better provide for the family and to provide a healthier situation and to work it into the menu plan? So that's what I started. And I started with olive oils, more olive oils. And let me tell you, the first night that I switched out using more vegetable oil, using total olive oil. And when we think olive oil, or when we think putting oil in a pan, we just put a little bit of drizzle, a little bit of oil in the pan. But when they put oil in the pan, it is a whole different experience. Never had I thought about adding a cup of olive oil into a dish that I was preparing because I thought it would make it so extremely greasy and oily. And you know how sometimes you get something and it is just grease. And that's what I thought was going to happen. But I tried it and it doesn't. And so I thought, okay, so it was a night that we had snow and it was cold and so I thought, okay, I'm gonna do something easy. they prepare quite a few of the families, and they said they raise their children on this of of having a hot breakfast in the morning. And of course they have they have oats and those kind of things like we have, like oatmeal. But their mom always had on the table a pot of beans. And they said, nobody thinks about sweet cereals and all that kind of stuff. They get a bowl of beans, and that was what they were raised on. And so I thought, well, let me try the bean recipe. So that's where I started with the bean recipe, and just did a night with bean soup, and had some fresh bread. And so the recipe starts with a cup of olive oil. Now, all olive oil, you all know, all olive oil is not necessarily the same. And so you try to get the best olive oil that you can. And surprisingly enough, Costco's Kirkland really is a good selection of olive oil to buy. And it was highly recommended. So I thought, okay, so I put the cup of olive oil in, and put all the onions, the celery, the carrots, and all that in, and then put the beans in. No meat, no meat, and allow that to simmer. And I did it the day before I wanted to serve it. So I just knew when I pulled it out of the refrigerator that there was going to be a layer of grease sitting on top, because that's typically what happens, especially if you have meat. You're going to have that layer of fat that's on top. Not a drop, not a drop. So I warmed it up, put it and served it. And the big guy sitting there, and he's just happily just eating away. Next thing I know, he goes and gets a second bowl. Hello, Karen. How are you? Happy Valentine's Day. He gets that second bowl, and he says, he looks at me and he says, this is the best bean soup you've ever made. And I said, oh, didn't say anything. And he said, I don't know what it is. He said, there's something in here that, he said, did you put sugar in it? I said, no, didn't put sugar. And I don't put sugar in my beans. And he said, well, what is it? There's something you changed. And I looked at him, I said, olive oil. And he said, wow. He said, it gives it a whole fresher taste. And I said, okay. So that was first check. So as we learn about olive oil, and as we get into it, I found that olive oil really is a large base of what a more Mediterranean style of cooking is all about. That's where they start, with the olive oil. And when you see how much olive oil that they use, it's kind of startling at first. So you're absolutely right, Denise. You can't tell them when you're doing something healthy. Let me show you, but okay, I got you back. I lost you for a minute. I don't know if you all lost it or not, but so as we talk about olive oil, that's where I started with the olive oil, just switching that out. So the next night, the second night, I thought, okay, well, that went pretty well. But the second night, I was preparing something, and I still had a little bit of vegetable oil. And I thought, okay, let me use up the vegetable oil. I don't want to waste. So I put the vegetable oil in the pan. As soon as he walked into the room, he said, what is that smell? And I looked at him, I said, well, all I did was to put the vegetable oil in the pan. He said, oh, that smells horrible. And I said, but it's new. He said, I don't care. He said, oh, that smells terrible. I said, okay. So I got rid of it. And he has not said that another time. Now, you all know I cooked the fish, did it in the olive oil. I did not have that nasty, fishy smell throughout the house. Now, go figure. I have no idea of why that is. But there have been some myths. And you have to wonder sometimes where the myths come from or why there's misinformation. We had always thought, and some of you have talked about this in the comment box of as we were talking about using the olive oil, that you thought you couldn't use olive oil in higher temperatures, and typically because that's what we had learned, that you just weren't supposed to do that. Well, what I found is that if you have a very good quality of olive oil, then you have a heating point up to 400 degrees. That's your top. You can go up to 400 degrees. And, typically when you're fixing something like fish, or I did chicken the other day, and I took it up to 375 and cooked it fine. And you know what? I didn't have the lingering odor after. Because anytime you fry something like that, you're going to have that lingering smell of whatever it is. But it's the oil that you're smelling. Olive oil is very healthy. And up to that 400 degrees, it keeps its healthy qualities and benefits. And there are some real serious benefits to using olive oil, not just a little teaspoon a day. We don't even have to be concerned really about the amounts of olive oil as long as we have a good quality olive oil. Now, first of all, olive oil is used and for in those places where it's used and used daily, they have a reduced amount of heart disease because their arteries and veins, they're not clogged. And they have, colon problems, they're not a problem because everything operates the way it's supposed to. Hey, Sue, happy Valentine's Day. Um, they're also thinking that diets that are higher in using they're called polyphenols, are the valuable substance that's found in olives and olive oil, is that it may even help to protect us against other types of cancer, breast cancer being one. Also, it's been known that those people who have tried to tweak their diets, that without even having to work at it, increasing the number of vegetables. Typically we say you should have close to 7 servings of vegetables, fruits and vegetables a day. 9 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is what we should be looking at. And you're absolutely right. They have beautiful skin, beautiful hair, and they even use the olive oil on their hair, and on their skin. Beauty, beauty. Um, it can and has been known, there's research that those diets that are very high in the 9 to 15 numbers of vegetables and fruits, as well as a diet high in olive oil, that it also helps to reduce blood pressure. Now, and that's even without trying, that's just increasing those areas. And what happens is that if you eat 9 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables, and you're using the olive oil, you're going to be full. You're going to eat less, and it's not even an effort. So you're not really calling it a diet. When I hear diet, that I automatically think I'm going to fail, because you think of diet. How many diets have I been on? But it's a change in the way that we eat. And so also, a lot of people have problems with blood clots, and especially as you age. And some of that is because of the fact that They need more exercise, but also is what we're eating. And so when we lessen the meat, it also lessens the meat fats. And it's not that it's that we're trying to cut back on protein, because we know we can still get the proteins through the grains and the vegetables, about the choices of what you make, and you having a little bit of meat. And so Denise is bringing in some information. I'm going to share this with you. And so I have been able to switch totally to to using the olive oil, and it hasn't caused a glitch in the menu plan. I've just literally switched that out and lessen the amount of meat that I prepare, and then increase the amount of vegetables that's going in, whatever it is. And so when I look at the plate, we try to look at that plate. They give you that plate as an example. Over three-fourths of that plate is our vegetables. And then we have our meat serving, because we can still have the meat. We can still have the steak. We can still have the fish. We can still have chicken. We can have all of that. But it just lessens it. But by the time they eat all of the vegetables, they're stuffed. They're stuffed. And so it's so cool to know that we can do something that can make sure that our families are healthy, make sure that we are healthy, because if we're healthy, they're going to be healthy. They're going to be healthy. And when we're healthy, we have more energy to be able to do the things that we need to do. Now, it was funny. I had been talking about, I don't know how many of you know Mary's Nest, and she's wonderful. I really, really like her. And I had been on a quest now for 2 years of trying to figure out sourdough bread making. And I don't know how many of you have tried it. And that sourdough starter, it had gotten the best of me. And my grandkids would laugh all the time, because every summer they come down to the beach, and I would have, my jar sitting there trying to grow my natural yeast, and they would just laugh. They thought it was hilarious. And then when I would try to bake with it, I'd end up with something that looked like potato chip, So anyway, it had been an adventure. But I started watching Mary's Nest and going through her sourdough 101. Well, not only was I able to get a good sourdough starter, but let me show you the bread that I made this weekend. I made bread, and I had a great, beautiful loaf. This is the first loaf. Typically when you make that first sourdough starter, typically your bread just kind of, you'll have a nice bread. It'll taste okay, but it won't be pretty. Well, this one was pretty, and it looked wonderful. Now, I make bread, but I had never, ever been able to successfully get a sourdough starter. Well, now I've got the sourdough starter, and I am ready to roll. And so this is the half. The other half is gone between the grandkids and hubby. They've been eating and cutting and eating and going with it. In fact, my grandson, when he left, he came back. He said, Mimi, can I have another piece of that bread? And I said, well, of course you have. Of course you can. He took a whole pocket full. He got a napkin and had loaded up pieces of bread and had put it in his pocket, and off he went. He was happy as a little lark that he had gone out of here with bread. And anyway, but it was fun. It was fun. So we're learning, and we're trying new things, and that's what I was amazed, because in these Mediterranean areas where their heart disease, all those diseases that we hear about all the time, they're not going through that. They don't even think about that. if they have a case of cancer, it may be because somebody was smoking, they had smoked all their life, those kind of things, not because of their diet. And so um, a couple of things that I did realize, I hadn't realized that this was an issue, was that the oils that we use also affect our mind. They affect our mind. And they, it's our cognitive abilities. We have those days when we're fuzzy, and when we have those days, we have to go back and look, okay, well, what did I eat today? What did I have last night? And yes, Kim, I made it with my starter. How about that? Woo! I was so excited. And I tell you what, guys, I'll tell you, I'll put it out there, I'll let you know. 2.5, at least 2.5 years have I not had a science experiment sitting on my counter. And thank you, Mary from Mary's Nest, because, and it was so simple. It was so simple. And the process I had been doing correctly. But you know what it was? Well, I don't want, but yeah, I'm going to tell you. You know what it was? I was starting it with the wrong kind of flour. And she started her sourdough starter with rye flour, total rye flour. And I tell you what, in 3 days, I had a bubbly solution ready to go. 3 days, not 10 of feeding and throwing away, all of that. And then I was able to start feeding the mixture with regular all-purpose flour. Didn't lose a minute. The bubbles continued to bubble. Everything was perfect. And so it was great. And so since then, since I got her original recipe, she has come up with one more thing. You know how what's his name? Oh shoot, he's a detective that, for those of you who are young, you may not remember. But anyway, he has a wrinkled coat, but he's always telling you one more thing. So my one more thing is that Mary has come up with this new, and I'm going to list it. I'm going to list it down in our description box today, because she has a method that Colombo, you're absolutely right, Sue. She has a technique now that, and I don't even think it was really her initial idea. I think she and another few ladies had kind of put their bread heads together and worked out their tweaks as they shared about what they were doing with bread. So now she has a new technique that she's doing, and she takes it and she uses the artisan bread style. Totally no need. This was not needed at all. And it goes in the refrigerator. It was 3.5 cups of flour, and she started it in the refrigerator for 3 days. No starter. Now this is the new one. No starter. She takes out, when it's time to bake the bread, she takes all of it out but a 1/2 cup. And she leaves that little 1/2 cup down in the plastic container, takes it out, puts it together, sets it out so it can rise and get warm, and then puts it in the stove. But she did the same thing with her sourdough starter. She put it into the container. She put about a 1/2 cup of it into the container. She added in the flour. She added in the salt and a little bit of sugar, and of course, water. And stirred it up real good. Let it sit in the refrigerator for 2 days. On the second day, she took out all but about half a cup, left that in, and made the bread out of what she wanted. Then she put all the flour, the water, back into that container, and it was ready for the next loaf of bread. And so, always in her refrigerator, she has this container sitting in there with what she needs for a new loaf of bread. And I thought, wow, yes, it's a no fail sourdough starter. Yes, you're absolutely right, Denise. That's her no fail sourdough starter. Let me tell you, it is the way to go. And it works. I am here to tell you it works. And this was started with rye flour and then flipped over to all purpose. Once I got the starter going, then put it in the all purpose flour. It was good to go. And I tell you what, this is the first one. I have the other one sitting in the refrigerator, and later on in the week, I'll probably cook a loaf of bread, or cook a bowl of bread. But the good thing is that when you look at those Mediterranean menus and styles of eating, they have bread at every meal, and it's typically fresh bread, unless they're serving soup. And so when you have those little pieces that are sitting around, and what will happen, because there's no preservatives in this bread. So as you're looking at it, I'm trying to turn it around so you can see, good, good, good. Smells good. I did not use as much sugar. I think she actually only had 1 tablespoon. And the 1 tablespoon actually spreads out, because remember, you're keeping a half a cup in the bowl. So part of that sugar, and you don't have to add any more sugar. And after a while, you don't have to add any more salt. And you're able to keep that bowl ready in your refrigerator. But in using these little pieces, you take and dip it into whatever kind of soup that you're serving, and or with your salad. This, bread, cut it up into cubes, and if you want to toast it, you can. Spread this over your salad, and it's good to go. And they even have some dishes where they actually throw the bread in with whatever it is that they're cooking. I know we used to do tomatoes like that, where we'd have tomatoes, prepared tomatoes, and crumble a little bread in there, and it would stretch the tomatoes. That's basically what it was doing, but it was delicious. So as you think about that, there are olive oil, more fruit and veggies. And we are fortunate in that we can get the veggies, we can get the fruit. And when I look at my bill, when I go to the grocery store, the largest portion of the bill is usually meat. And when I don't buy a lot of meat, my grocery bill is reasonable. And you look and go, wow. I can look at my grocery list and say, well, $100 is going to go to the meat for the month or more. And then the rest of it is for everything else. But if you're able to cut that portion in half or less and kick it up with the vegetables, imagine the savings on your grocery bills. Oh, amazing. So, salads, I love salads. But in Mediterranean eating, lettuces are not always in the salads. And I think that's what bothered the big guy when we were there, because he's such a lettuce person. But that's the way he makes salad. He puts lettuce. You have a huge amount of lettuce and then everything else. And what we do for what they do is that they've got all of the tomatoes, the cucumbers, and all the other things that are in there. And if they put lettuce in, you may have maybe a fourth of a head of lettuce rather than the whole head of lettuce or half a head of lettuce in. So the lettuce is in the background, and it's usually cut very small if you're going to have it. And so the salad consists of everything else. So that gives you a really good, solid salad that's so filling. And it's usually sprinkled with either feta cheese or with, if you like goat cheese or blue cheese or some type of cheese, but not a processed cheese. You're looking for a really good quality of cheese. They salt shakers, salt shakers are never on their table. And in fact, he's a salt person. So because of that, he kept looking for, well, where's the salt shaker? Where's the salt shaker? And they had to go get him a little container and put some salt in there so he could sprinkle salt. And so to me, that said, I don't need the salt. I don't need that. And what we found out was that if you eat it in the combination that it was served with the olive oils, with, in this case, it was feta cheese and all the vegetables, you didn't, because the feta is already salty. The olives are already salty. And olives come with everything. It's all about the fermented olives. You have the pickles, and all of those have a certain amount of salt that's in them, but we don't have to add any of that because you added the salt that you need through natural sources. So that has been a great idea, a great thing. And Louise was saying she likes soups for the winter and salads for summer. And we do salads as well. I've gotten into the big salad, and I do salads year round. I love salad, and of course, you find the better vegetables in the spring and summer. But I do a lot of salads. I do a lot of salads, and yes, definitely soups for winter because most of the time it's just a little too hot to have salads in the summer. Uh, let's see. Let me catch here. Denise said, with so many people on the standard American diet with high blood pressure, no salt on the table and less salt in foods is a must. You are absolutely right, Denise. You're absolutely right. And that's something that, I think so often if we eliminated the processed foods, you think processed foods are, if you look at if we read the labels, we probably would never touch it anyway. And what I have found through starting to, I didn't just start making my own bread. I've been doing that for a while. But in serving my own breads, and I did start my daughter in making her own breads, that weight wasn't an issue. Usually they tell you, okay, you got to cut back on your bread. You got to cut back on your bread. Cut back on, that's what they cut back on your bread. But the bottom line of it is that when you have bread that is made in a more natural way, and you're not adding all the salt and all the sugar, because even our breads that we buy are heavily laden in salt and sugar, as well as, keyword, preservatives. There are preservatives that are in our breads so that they can stay on those shelves longer. And I purchased a loaf of bread. It's been a while back, but it sat on the counter. I didn't even put it in the refrigerator, and it was able to sit on that counter for over 2 weeks without one drop of mold, any of that. And you just go, huh. And so that says in itself that there's so much that's hidden in our foods that we're eating, that if we can prepare it ourselves, we can eliminate all of that. Because I think our bodies are starting to react to the things that have been placed in our foods so that they're able to remain shelf stable, so to speak. and we can keep them on the counters longer. And so because of that, we're eating it, it's available, so we do that. And if we do that, our bodies are going, this isn't natural, and it's reacting. So certainly that can be part of the problem of why we're starting to have so many strange things happen in our bodies, because we've got things going on in there that there's a big question mark around as to what is it, and our body doesn't know what to do with it. Belle is saying that, hey, Brittany, happy Valentine. Belle said when she makes her bread, she always reduces the salt, and you don't notice any issue with the flavor. None, none, none. I don't know. Have you all ever watched the fella that's on? He's known for the artisan bread. I can see his face. Um, but he's done the one bowl where you put everything in the bowl, stir it up, and let it sit. And he puts just almost a pinch. He puts just a little bit of salt in there, and that's it. No sugar, none of that. And I tell you what, his bread is good. It's good. Denise said another thing is that there is a transition to unprocessed bread, and that's true, and to traditional foods, a traditional foods kitchen. Homemade bread does taste a bit different, and it does have a different texture, and that's true. And of course, its shelf life is not as long. So if you're going to start to move to a more homemade bread, then just know if you have quite a few mouths that you're going to have to prepare that bread often. And I know there's several ladies that are on YouTube who prepare their homemade. That's all they do. That's all they prepare bread for their family daily, and because of that, uh, they have sliced bread. They've learned how to make it. Their children are happy with it, and they're very healthy. And you know what? And you look at them, weight is not an issue. So I have to think that all of this processing has an awful lot to do with our issues in our country. Um, Homemade bread it is a bit different, but you know what? We can certainly, can you freeze it? Now, what I like to do, I freeze the dough. So after I've made it, I usually let it rise once, the first rise, and then wrap it well, put it into a Ziploc bag, or do the use the machine that takes all the air out. You know what I'm saying? And I usually use that, put it into the freezer. Then I can take it out, thaw it in the refrigerator, bring it out so it can rise that second time, and it goes straight into the stove. And it's delicious. You don't even know. You have your own homemade bread sitting in your freezer. I've done the same thing with rolls. I do that with rolls, especially if I know that I have a lot of people coming for dinner. I prepare the rolls. I put them into their little rolls and their little balls, their little shapes. I make sure that they're far enough apart that I can put them into the freezer and just take out what we need. And like right now, I have about a dozen of them sitting in the freezer that, occasionally I'll say, okay, for a Sunday dinner, we may want about 4 rolls. And that'll be one for each of us, and then maybe one for the next day. And so, yes, I prepare that. Now, I can't say that I have prepared the bread like this and then froze it. I haven't done that yet. I haven't tried that. So I can't answer to that. But before it gets to this point, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Who is this? Melinda. No, Deb. Deb said her grandmother-in-law made our bread for the first 40 years of our marriage. How about that? It was a hard transition to store bread for us. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And you do have to. Now I keep mine. I'll refrigerate it, but I think it does better if it's, as long as the house isn't extremely hot, then I keep it out on the counter and it holds its texture the way you like. But, after a while, it starts to get hard. And unless I'm going to throw it in some soup, sometimes I'll keep it and make breadcrumbs. And I've done that. But, it is better for our bodies, but it is a transition in thinking about how to care for it. There's a book. Oh, shoot. I should have brought that down. It's called Five. It's like a five ingredients. Oh, man. It's I'm going to have to go back. I'll have to, I don't want to tell you wrong, but you can make your bread, have homemade bread, and she gives you all these. One is a nutritionist, and one is a homemaker and a doctor. So between the two of them, they have worked out an easy bread system that they use with their families. And it's easy for you to prepare. And I'm thinking it's a five ingredient bread. I'm thinking it has something about five ingredients. And the bread is good because I've used it and it doesn't require, now they give you an option for a starter if you want to do a starter, but you don't have to do a starter. You can prepare this bread and it goes in your refrigerator so that you always have bread dough ready to use. And so when you take out what you need, you just add more flour in and go from there. But because you started it in this container, you never have to add more yeast. All of that's in there. You just have to add the flour and the water. You mix it and it is ready to go. So, that it's a good one. I will pull that and I will have that for you so that I can show you what it is. But certainly, it is an option. I know I started, I looked, I've used that maybe 2 years and just pulled recipes out of there. But homemade bread is just so much better for you. Your body processes it better. And in fact, my daughter, who had tested gluten intolerant, uh, she and her family have started using more homemade breads, and she uses organic flours. And through that, their bodies have been able to process uh, the bread, the homemade bread. They've been just fine with the grains that they've used, and the gluten-free portion hadn't been an issue. So that says in and of itself that if we buy as much quality as we can, good quality, and try to buy less processed, then it may take us a few minutes. But you know what? With homemade bread, we always think, I know when I look back, the ladies that I knew who made bread, it seemed like when they started making bread, it took them all day to get their bread on the table and ready to go. And then they'd have this nice little loaf of bread, but they had spent the whole day trying to get the bread ready. And so it is nice to know that at this point we have been able to work the science in such a way and find out the little tricks that we can use to have fresh bread, better foods on our table in a much more simple manner because our world is different. We can't spend all day making just the bread. We've got other things that we need to move on and do. And so I am just thrilled to think that we are able to, you know, provide for our families the healthy foods that we need. Now, you know what? This has been a great discussion. But when you're going out, if you go out and you have to go to the grocery and you're looking for your olive oil and transitioning to a more olive oil based cooking style, that's what I'm going to call it, my more olive oil based cooking style, that we are looking for the best that we can buy. And the good thing is to know that we can find it on our regular shelves. We just have to look for it. And there is a brand that is even carried on Amazon that's called California. California. It has a green label, but I'll list that down below as well. But those olives are made in those olives are grown in California. So the closer we are and the better and more natural that our particular vegetables are grown and our olive oils are made, the less processing they need, then what's going into us and into our families is going to be better for us. Now, next week, I have someone who's coming on who has been through uh, a journey of nutrition. And she is one I really wanted you to meet. She is she has certainly, I think, gone the gamut of looking at diet. And if you remember back, Lou Ali came on from Earrings Off. Well, this is her co-partner in the Earrings Off business. And Teresa is the nutrition side. And she's going to be talking about nutrition, but she's going to be talking about it from her standpoint firsthand of what she's dealt with. Now, I have invited her into the kitchen on Saturday, and I'm hoping that she's going to come in and she's going to teach me a few things about how to tweak those diets and a few things to do. So it's funny, just before I came on the air today, she was sending me a message because she has had to go back in to work. So she's not able to work from home. And it was great. Her conversation's great. You're going to love her. She's funny, but she has certainly been through a rough journey of trying to find those things that best suited herself as well as her family. Belle says that they have a local olive oil and vinegar shop. Hmm. Well, Belle, I'm stopping right there and asking Belle. Let me click on that. Um, Maybe you can find out if your local olive oil shop sells in larger quantities than just the little small bottles. And sometimes you have the little olive oil shops, but mostly what you can get are the little teeny bottles. So see how large a quantity that you're able to get. And if so, if we can find a source, I had even thought to, I think I'm going to ask Dee of Dee Lovely Life because she's out in California. And I know, she has her fresh lemons. I don't know if y'all saw that. Oh my God, they look like oranges. They were beautiful. And, but I know in California, they have some wonderful olive oil. And because I've ordered olive oil and grapeseed oil from California direct. And so if we have somewhere that we have a tap into really good, fresh, little processed olive oil, then we know that we can do that. And I like coconut oil as well. I like coconut oil as well. And just think, if we can heal ourselves with olive oil and fruits and vegetables with just a touch of the meat that we like, what a mixture that would be. Now, ladies and gents, I say to you that this has been so much fun because, this is what we do around the lunch table. This is where we're able to share with each other all the things that, we're experiencing, and we learn from each other. and we're finding out, this works better, this doesn't, this was a dud. And, I told you all about that cake Saturday. The kids and I were trying to put together and never did get that cake together. Well, okay, that's not going to be something you see me doing on Saturday morning because it didn't work. But you know what? It is all about finding what is best for all of us. And we're a family. We're doing it together and we're helping each other. And I try to keep you to an hour. And I love having you right here. We could go on and on chit-chatting, just having a good time. But you know what? You know what time it is. I got to get you back because in a little while, Denise is going to be going live and we have got to catch her show because I'm fixing those shrimp and grits, and I'm going to have those for the big guy one day this week. So to all of you, much love, and I pray blessings over all of you that you have an absolutely fantastic Valentine's Day and a wonderful, wonderful week. Love you all. And I'll see you soon, right here in the kitchen of Ebony and Ivy in Thyme, where we're building stronger families. And we're doing it one meal at a time around our table. See you soon.